Hello, and welcome back to English Forward, the podcast that helps you take your English to the next level. I'm your host, Speaker 1.
And I'm Speaker 2. It's wonderful to be here with you all today. We have a really practical and important topic lined up.
We absolutely do. Today, we're diving into the world of work and careers. This is a huge topic, something that affects almost everyone. We're going to break it down into 3 parts. First, we'll talk about getting the job interview.
That's right, the first step on the career ladder. Then, in our second segment, we'll discuss what happens after you get the job, communication in the office, how to talk to your colleagues and boss effectively.
And finally, in our third segment, we'll look at the bigger picture, career growth, how to move up, get promotions, and build a successful professional life. So it's a complete journey from the interview to the corner office.
Metaphorically speaking, of course, not everyone wants a corner office, but everyone wants to feel successful and competent at work.
Exactly. Let's start with job interviews. I think for a lot of English learners, this is one of the most stressful situations you can imagine. You have to talk about yourself, your skills, your experience, all in another language. It's a lot of pressure.
It is an immense amount of pressure. You're not just trying to communicate. You're trying to impress someone. You're trying to sell your abilities and your personality. And you have to do it all while your mind is translating and searching for the right words.
Right. I remember my first few interviews in English. I was so nervous. My mouth was dry, my hands were shaking. I was worried I would forget a simple word or make a basic grammar mistake.
That's a completely normal feeling. I think even native speakers get incredibly nervous before a job interview. So the first thing to remember is that it's okay to be nervous. The interviewer expects it. They aren't looking for a perfect robot. They're looking for a capable and friendly human being.
That's a really good point. They're human too. So, what's our goal for this first segment? What do we want our listeners to walk away with?
Our goal is to give you the language and the confidence to handle a job interview in English. We're going to look at some key vocabulary and phrases that will make you sound professional and prepared. We'll also talk about a great strategy for answering those difficult "tell me about a time when" questions.
Oh, I hate those questions. They always make my mind go completely blank. Tell me about a time you solved a difficult problem. And I'm thinking, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast.
Exactly. It happens to everyone. But with a little bit of preparation and a good technique, you can answer those questions clearly and effectively. So we'll equip you with the tools you need to feel more in control and less stressed.
Fantastic. So, listeners, if you have a job interview coming up, or if you plan to look for a job in an English-speaking environment in the future, this segment is for you. Get ready to take some notes. We want to help you feel ready to walk into that room and show them how amazing you are.
That's the perfect attitude. It's all about preparation, meeting opportunity. So let's get started and demystify the English job interview. We'll make it less scary and more manageable.
I'm ready. Let's dive into the vocabulary that will help our listeners shine in their next interview.
Perfect. Let's do it. We have some excellent phrases that will be incredibly useful in job interviews.
Great. Let's move on to our vocabulary preview for job interviews. What are the key phrases we need to know, Speaker 2?
Okay, so I've chosen 3 fantastic idioms that are very common in a professional context, especially during interviews. They will help you sound more natural and fluent. The first one is to put your best foot forward.
To put your best foot forward. Okay, I think I can guess this one. Does it mean to try your best, to make a really good first impression?
That's exactly it. You've hit the nail on the head. To put your best foot forward means to present yourself in the best possible way, to show all of your positive qualities. An interview is the perfect time to do this. You want the interviewer to see the best version of you.
That makes sense. So Could you give us an example sentence?
Of course, you could say, I really want this job, so I need to prepare well and put my best foot forward during the interview. Or, she bought a new suit for the meeting to help her put her best foot forward. It's all about making a great impression.
I like that. It's a very positive and active phrase. It feels like you're taking control.
Okay, what's our second phrase? The second one is incredibly important for those tricky interview questions we were just talking about. The phrase is to think on your feet.
To think on your feet. Literally, it sounds like you're standing up and thinking.
Yes, the images of someone who doesn't need to sit down and be quiet to think. It means to be able to think and react to things quickly, without any preparation. Interviewers love to ask questions to see if you can think on your feet. They want to know if you can handle unexpected situations.
So when they ask a question you didn't prepare for, they are testing your ability to think on your feet.
Precisely. For example, the interviewer might ask, imagine a client is very angry about a mistake. What would you do right now? They want to see your immediate, intelligent reaction.
So how would I use this in a sentence? Maybe talking about my skills?
Yes, that's a perfect way to use it. You could say, in my previous role as a customer service agent, I had to learn to think on my feet to solve customer problems quickly. It shows you have this valuable skill.
Okay, that's a really useful one. Put your best foot forward and think on your feet. I'm feeling more prepared already. What's our third and final phrase for this section?
The last one is to sell yourself.
Sell yourself. That sounds a little strange, like you're a product in a shop.
It does sound a little strange, but it's a very common idiom in the business world. It doesn't mean literally selling yourself, of course. It means to persuade someone that you are the right person for something, like a job. You are convincing them of your value, your skills, and your abilities.
Aha. So it's like marketing. I'm the product, and my skills are the features, and I need to convince the interviewer to buy, or in this case, hire me.
You've got it. That's the perfect analogy. An interview is a sales meeting where you are the product. You need to sell yourself effectively. For example, you could say, the interview is my one chance to sell myself to the company. Or, he's very good at his job, but he's not very good at selling himself, so he struggles in interviews.
That one is so important. I think a lot of people are too shy or modest. They don't want to sound like they are bragging. But in an interview, you have to sell yourself a little bit.
You absolutely do. There's a difference between bragging and confidently stating your accomplishments. Selling yourself is about the latter. It's about presenting the facts of your success in a persuasive way.
Okay, let's review them one more time. We have to put your best foot forward, which means to make the best possible impression.
Correct. Then we have to think on your feet, which means to react and think quickly in a situation.
And finally, to sell yourself, which means to convince someone of your value and skills. These are fantastic. They all feel very empowering.
They are, and using them correctly will show the interviewer that you have a good grasp of professional English. It adds a little bit of extra polish.
Excellent. I think our listeners are ready for the next part.
Now we move to our language takeaway. This is where we focus on a specific strategy or grammar point that you can use right away. For job interviews, I want to talk about a powerful technique called the STAR method.
The STAR method. It sounds like it will make me a star performer in the interview. What does STAR stand for?
It does, and it will. STAR is an acronym. It stands for situation, task, action, and result. STAR. It's a method for answering behavioral questions.
Okay, you mentioned those before. Behavioral questions are the ones that start with, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of a situation where.
Exactly. They're designed to understand how you have behaved in past work situations, because past performance is often a good indicator of future performance.
Instead of just giving a vague answer, the STAR method helps you structure your story in a clear, concise, and compelling way.
I need this in my life. My answers are always so messy. I start in the middle, then I forget the beginning. So can you break it down for us? What is situation?
Of course. Let's start with S for situation. This is the first step. You need to set the scene. Briefly describe the context. Where were you working? What was the project? What was the general situation? You should give just enough detail for the interviewer to understand. Don't spend too much time here.
Okay, so just the background information. For example, I was working as a project manager on a new software launch.
Perfect. That's a great start.
I'm ready. It's like a workout for your mouth.
Exactly. Let's start with our first idiom. Focus on the rhythm of the phrase. Repeat after me. Put your best foot forward.
Put your best foot forward.
Good. Notice how best foot forward kind of links together. Best foot forward. Let's try it again. Put your best foot forward.
Put your best foot forward.
Excellent. Now let's put it in a full sentence. Listen to the intonation. It goes up a little and then down at the end. I need to put my best foot forward in the interview.
I need to put my best foot forward in the interview.
One more time, a bit faster. I need to put my best foot forward in the interview.
I need to put my best foot forward in the interview.
Perfect. Okay, let's move to our second phrase. This one has a nice quick rhythm. Repeat after me. Think on your feet.
Think on your feet.
Good. The stress is on think and feet. Think on your feet. Let's do it again. Think on your feet.
Think on your feet.
Great. Now for the sentence. Listen to the flow. This job requires someone who can think on their feet.
This job requires someone who can think on their feet.
Listen again to the flow. This job requires someone who can think on their feet.
This job requires someone who can think on their feet.
Wonderful. You're getting the natural English rhythm. Okay, last one. Repeat after me. Sell yourself.
Sell yourself.
Nice and simple. Again, sell yourself.
Sell yourself.
Now in a question, so the intonation will go up at the end. Do you find it difficult to sell yourself?
Do you find it difficult to sell yourself?
Great rising intonation. One more time. Do you find it difficult to sell yourself?
Do you find it difficult to sell yourself?
Excellent. For our listeners, practicing these short sentences over and over is one of the best ways to improve your fluency. Don't just listen, say them out loud. Feel how the words move in your mouth. This builds confidence for when you have to use them in a real conversation, like an interview.
It really does help. When you've said it 10 times in practice, saying it for the first time in an interview feels so much easier. Thank you for that, Speaker 2.
My pleasure. Practice makes perfect, or at least practice makes confident.
I love that. Practice makes confident. That's our new motto. All right, that was a fantastic fluency builder. We've reached the final part of our first segment on job interviews, the personal anecdote and wrap-up. I think after all that serious talk about methods and vocabulary, it's nice to share a real story. Speaker 2, you've been in the professional world for a while. You must have a memorable job interview story for us. Maybe a terrible one or a funny one?
Oh, I have one. I have a story about one of the most embarrassing job interviews I ever had. It taught me a very important lesson. I was young, probably about 22 years old, and I was interviewing for a job at a very prestigious, very formal marketing company. It was one of those places with glass walls and people in very expensive suits.
Oh, wow, I can picture it. Very intimidating.
Extremely intimidating. And I really wanted to put my best foot forward. So I had prepared for days. I researched the company, I practiced my answers, I had my STAR method stories ready, even though I didn't call it that back then. I was ready. I walk in, and the interview was with 3 people, the head of the department and 2 senior managers.
3 on 1. That's tough.
It was very tough, But the interview was going surprisingly well. I was answering their questions, I was making them laugh a little bit. I felt like I was doing a good job of selling myself. I was feeling confident. Then the department head looks at my resume and says, "So, I see you have proficient in Spanish listed here under your skills. Can you tell us about your experience using Spanish in a professional setting?"
Ah, the classic language skill question.
Exactly. And the truth was, my Spanish was not proficient. It was maybe beginner intermediate. I had taken it in high school and a little bit in college. I could order food in a restaurant and ask for directions, but that was about it. I had put it on my resume to make it look a little more impressive. A classic mistake.
Oh no, I think a lot of people have done that. What did you do?
Well, my brain panicked. I knew I couldn't lie, but I didn't want to admit that I had exaggerated on my resume, so I tried to be clever. I said, "Well, I mostly used it for reading and research. My conversational skills are a bit rusty." I thought that was a good, safe answer.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
It would have been, except for what happened next. One of the other interviewers, one of the senior managers, smiled and said, "Oh, that's perfect. My wife is from Argentina. Let's talk a little bit in Spanish now. I would love to hear your accent."
No, you're kidding me.
I am not kidding you. He then proceeded to ask me, in perfect rapid-fire Spanish, a complicated question about my previous marketing experience. My mind went completely blank. All the Spanish I had ever learned just disappeared. I just stared at him.
What did you say?
I said the only thing I could think of. I looked at him, smiled a very nervous smile, and said, "¿Dónde está la biblioteca?"
Where is the library? Ugh, that is painful.
It was mortifying. The whole room went silent for about 5 seconds, which felt like 5 years. The man who asked the question just looked confused. The other 2 interviewers were trying so hard not to laugh. I knew right then in that moment that the interview was over. I had no chance.
Wow, so what happened?
I just had to be honest. I said, "I am so sorry. I have clearly overestimated my Spanish abilities on my resume. My conversational Spanish is not a professional level. That was a mistake, and I apologize." They were very polite about it, but the rest of the interview was just a formality. I, of course, did not get the job.
That is an incredible story. It's funny now, but I'm sure it was terrible at the time. What was the big lesson you learned from that?
The lesson was simple and powerful. Be honest. Be honest on your resume and be honest in your interview. It is always better to be honest about a skill you don't have than to be caught in a lie. If I had just written basic Spanish on my resume, it would have been fine. The problem wasn't my lack of Spanish, it was my lack of honesty. Companies hire for skills, but they also hire for character. And that day, I showed them I had bad character.
That's such a good point. A job can teach you skills, but it's much harder to teach someone to be honest. So for our listeners, the advice is be confident and sell yourself, but sell the real you. Don't invent skills or experience you don't have.
Precisely. Focus on your real strengths. Everyone has them. My strength was not Spanish, but I probably had other strengths that I could have focused on. The desire to seem perfect made me make a very foolish mistake. Nobody is perfect, and no interviewer expects you to be. They expect you to be honest and capable.
That's a perfect story to wrap up our segment on interviews. It's about being prepared with things like the STAR method, but it's also about being authentic and honest.
Absolutely. So to summarize our key takeaways from this segment, first, prepare some key vocabulary like put your best foot forward, think on your feet, and sell yourself. Second, use the STAR method to structure your answers to behavioral questions. It will make you sound clear and confident. And third, as my story shows, always be honest about your skills and experience.
Fantastic advice. I feel like our listeners are now much better equipped to handle their next job interview in English. Thank you, Speaker 2.
You're very welcome. It's a challenging situation, but with the right tools, it's one you can definitely succeed in. Good luck to everyone out there who is job hunting.
All right, so we've successfully navigated the job interview and landed the job. But the journey doesn't stop there. Now we have to actually work with people. That brings us to our second segment, office communication.
A very important topic. Getting the job is one thing, but keeping it and being effective often comes down to how well you can communicate with your team.
I couldn't agree more. It's not just about doing your tasks. It's about meetings, emails, giving feedback, asking for help. All of these small interactions that make up the workday. And doing this in a second language can be tricky.
It can be. Different cultures have different ways of communicating in the workplace. Some are very direct and some are very indirect. A lot of English-speaking offices, especially in the US and UK, tend to use more indirect and polite language. A direct translation from your native language might sound rude or too aggressive, even if you don't mean it to.
That's a great point. I've heard stories of people getting into trouble because they were too direct. For example, instead of saying, "I need this now," a native speaker might say, "Would it be possible to get this by the end of the day?" The meaning is the same, but the feeling is completely different.
Exactly. That politeness is a key part of the communication style. It's about showing respect for your colleagues' time and workload. So, in this segment, we're going to focus on some of that language. We'll look at common phrases for daily interactions, and our language takeaway will focus on how to make requests and disagreements.
To have a short, informal conversation or check-in.
To be on the same page.
To have the same understanding or agreement.
And to circle back.
To return to a topic at a later time.
Great! These phrases are the building blocks of daily office talk. Using them will definitely help our listeners sound more integrated into the team.
I completely agree. They are part of the common language of the modern workplace.
Now, I'm excited to learn how to use this kind of language for more difficult situations, like disagreeing with someone.
Well, that's exactly what our language takeaway is about. Let's move on. Welcome to our language takeaway for office communication. In the introduction, we mentioned that many English-speaking workplaces prefer an indirect communication style. This is especially true in sensitive situations, like when you need to ask someone to do something or when you need to disagree with an idea.
Yes, these are the moments when you worry about sounding rude or aggressive. You want to express your opinion, but you don't want to damage your relationship with your colleague. It's a difficult balance.
It is. The key is to use what we call softening language. These are words and phrases that make your statements sound less direct, less demanding, and more polite. It's like putting a cushion around your words.
A cushion for my words. I love that image. So, what are some of these cushions? Let's start with making requests. How can I ask a colleague to do something without sounding like a demanding boss?
A great question. Instead of using a direct command like, "Send me the report," you can soften it in several ways. One way is to use a question form with words like could or would. For example, "Could you please send me the report?"
Okay, that's already much more polite. Could you is a classic.
It is, but we can make it even softer. You can add a phrase at the beginning like, "I was wondering if you could," or "Do you think you could?" So it becomes, "I was wondering if you could send me the report when you have a moment."
Ooh, that is very soft. I was wondering if you could. Sounds very humble and respectful of their time. And adding "when you have a moment" is a nice touch too.
Exactly. It shows that you understand they are busy. Another technique is to explain the reason for your request. This helps the other person understand why it's important. For example, "Could you send me the report? I need to review it before our meeting at 3 p.m.
That makes sense. It's not just a random demand, it's part of a shared goal. So I can combine these. I was wondering if you could send me the report. I need to review it before our 3 p.m. meeting.
Perfect. That is a very polite and professional request. You are much more likely to get a positive and quick response with that than with, I need the report now.
Definitely. Okay, so that's for making requests. What about the other difficult situation? Disagreeing with someone. How do I say, I think your idea is bad without making an enemy?
Haha, yes, you should never say your idea is bad. The key here is to show respect for the other person's idea first before you introduce your own. You can use phrases that show you have listened and considered their point of view.
So you validate their idea first.
Precisely. You can say things like, that's an interesting point, or I see what you mean, or I understand where you're coming from. You save this first. Then you use a connecting word like but or however, followed by your different idea. For example, I see what you mean, but have we considered the budget for this?
Ah, so you agree with the person's right to have an opinion, even if you don't agree with the opinion itself. That's a good point. However, I'm concerned it might take too much time.
Exactly. You are not attacking their idea. You are presenting a different perspective or a potential problem. Another great technique is to phrase your disagreement as a question. Instead of saying, this won't work, you could ask, what are your thoughts on how we would handle the technical challenges with that approach?
That is so smart. It opens a discussion instead of starting a fight. It invites them to solve the problem with you.
You've got it. It's collaborative, not confrontational. A great phrase for this is, I'm just wondering if, for example, that's a really creative solution. I'm just wondering if we have the resources to do it this year.
I'm just wondering if... I like that. It sounds curious, not critical. So, to recap for disagreeing. First, validate their point. I see what you mean. Then use a soft transition, however. And finally, present your counterpoint, maybe as a question. Have we considered?
That is the perfect formula. It allows you to be honest and contribute your ideas to the conversation, but in a way that is respectful and maintains good team relations. It's not about being weak, it's about being strategic and professional in your communication.
This is so practical. I think this can help our listeners immediately in their next meeting or email. It's all about choosing the right cushion for your words.
Exactly. And the more you use these phrases, the more natural they will become. It's a skill you can learn and practice.
Wonderful. Thank you for that very clear and useful explanation. Let's see if I can put it into practice.
I think we're ready for our putting it together dialogue. This time, let's imagine a short team meeting. We're discussing a new project. I will be a team member with an idea, and you, speaker one, will be the team leader. Try to use the vocabulary and the polite disagreement techniques we just discussed.
Okay, team leader. I like the sound of that. I will do my best to be a collaborative and polite leader. Listeners, pay attention to how I try to manage the conversation and use our new phrases.
Let's start. Okay, team. So for the new marketing campaign, I think we should spend our entire budget on a big TV advertisement. It will reach the most people.
Thanks for that suggestion. That's an interesting idea, and a TV ad would certainly have a big reach. I see your point. However, I'm a bit concerned about the cost. I'm just wondering if that's the most effective use of our entire budget.
Well, I think we need to make a big splash. How else can we do that?
That's a fair question. Before we go further on the TV ad idea, I want to make sure the whole team is on the same page about our main goal. Is our goal to reach the most people possible, or is it to reach the right kind of customer who will actually buy our product?
I suppose it's to reach the right kind of customer.
Exactly. So with that in mind, perhaps we could explore some other options, like targeted social media ads. I'd like to touch base with the data team to see what they think. Why don't you and I touch base tomorrow morning to discuss this further after I have some data?
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. I'm happy to look at other options.
Great. And this discussion about the budget is important, but it's a bigger topic. Let's circle back to the overall budget allocation in our meeting next Friday when we have more data. For now, let's brainstorm some creative ideas for social media.
Works for me. Thanks.
And scene. How was I as a team leader?
You were excellent. A textbook example of polite and effective communication. Let's analyze what you did. First, when I suggested the TV ad, you didn't say, "No, that's a bad idea." You used our disagreement formula perfectly. You validated my idea. That's an interesting point. You showed you understood. I see what you mean. And then you presented your concern as a soft question. I'm just wondering if that's the most effective use of our entire budget.
I tried to be gentle. I didn't want to shut down your idea completely.
And it worked. You made me feel heard. Then you brilliantly used one of our vocabulary phrases. You said, "I want to make sure we're all on the same page about our main goal." This refocused the conversation in a very positive way. You weren't saying my idea was bad, you were saying it might not fit our shared goal.
So I made it about the team's goal, not about me versus you.
Precisely. It was very collaborative. And you used touch base perfectly for a short, specific follow-up meeting. Let's touch base tomorrow morning. And you used circle back to postpone the bigger, more complex budget discussion. Let's circle back to the budget next Friday.
Works for me. Thanks.
And scene. How was I as a team leader?
You were excellent. A textbook example of polite and effective communication.
Let's analyze what you did. First, when I suggested the TV ad, you didn't say, "No, that's a bad idea." You used our disagreement formula perfectly. You validated my idea. That's an interesting point. You showed you understood. I see what you mean. And then you presented your concern as a soft question. I'm just wondering if that's the most effective use of our entire budget.
I tried to be gentle. I didn't want to shut down your idea completely.
And it worked. You made me feel heard. Then you brilliantly used one of our vocabulary phrases. You said, "I want to make sure we're all on the same page about our main goal." This refocused the conversation in a very positive way.
You were, and you used "I played a key role," which is a great team-oriented way to take credit. Then you brought in the data. Engagement increased by 40%. That's the most important part. It's undeniable proof of your success. And you even slipped in one of our vocabulary words, "go the extra mile." It was perfect.
Thank you. I was trying to connect everything we've learned.
And you did. Then we moved to the future. Your language was positive and proactive. You used, "I'm keen to take on more responsibility," and "I'm eager to develop my leadership skills." That shows passion and a desire to grow.
I wanted to make it clear I was ready for the next step.
And you did it in the best possible way. The most brilliant thing you did was connect your personal goal to the team's needs. You said, "I can provide even more value to the team." You basically told me that promoting you would be a good business decision. You made it easy for me as the manager to support you.
That was my goal, to make it a win-win situation.
And that's the secret to a successful performance review and to career growth in general. Show your value and then show how you can provide even more value in the future. For our listeners, what Speaker 1 just did is your model. It's confident, but not arrogant. It's ambitious, but also collaborative. It's the perfect tone to strike.
That's wonderful feedback. Thank you, Speaker 2. This exercise shows that with the right language, these conversations can be really positive and productive.
They absolutely can be.
All right, let's practice saying these powerful phrases out loud in our final fluency builder for today's episode. This is our last chance to get some pronunciation practice in.
Let's make it a good one. The key to the phrases in this section is to sound confident and positive. Your intonation should be strong and clear. Let's get started. I will say it first, and everyone, please repeat after me.
I'm ready to sound confident.
Excellent. Let's start with a phrase for an achievement. The stress is on the word proud. Repeat after me. I'm particularly proud of this project.
I'm particularly proud of this project.
Good, strong intonation. Let's do it again. I'm particularly proud of this project.
I'm particularly proud of this project.
Perfect. Here's another one for talking about your contribution. I played a key role in its success.
I played a key role in its success.
Nice. Notice the emphasis on key role. Let's try it again. I played a key role in its success.
I played a key role in its success.
Excellent. Now let's switch to the future-focused phrases. These should sound enthusiastic and eager. Repeat after me. I'm keen to take on more responsibility.
I'm keen to take on more responsibility.
Great energy. Let the intonation rise a little on keen to show that enthusiasm. I'm keen to take on more responsibility.
I'm keen to take on more responsibility.
Wonderful. And a similar one. I'm eager to develop new skills.
I'm eager to develop new skills.
Again, let your voice show the eagerness. I'm eager to develop new skills.
I'm eager to develop new skills.
Perfect. And our last one, about asking for a chance. The tone here is polite but confident. I would welcome the opportunity to lead a project.
I would welcome the opportunity to lead a project.
Very good. Let's say that one more time, making it sound very professional. I would welcome the opportunity to lead a project.
I would welcome the opportunity to lead a project.
Fantastic. For our listeners, practicing these sentences will not only help your pronunciation, but will also help you feel the emotion behind the words. When you say I'm eager, try to actually feel eager. When you say I'm proud, feel proud. This will make your delivery much more convincing in a real performance review.
That's such a great tip. It's like method acting for English learning. Connect the feeling to the words. Thank you, Speaker 2. That's a perfect end to our fluency practice for today's episode.
My pleasure. You've all done wonderfully.
We have reached the end of our final segment and the end of our episode on work and career. It's time for our last personal anecdote and wrap-up. We've talked about getting a job, communicating at work, and now growing your career. Speaker 2, can you share a story or a piece of advice you've learned about career growth?
I'd be happy to. This is less of a single story and more of a lesson I learned over several years. It's about the difference between being busy and being productive and how that relates to career growth. When I was younger, I thought the way to climb the corporate ladder was to be the busiest person in the office.
I think a lot of people believe that. You have to be the first one in and the last one to leave.
Exactly. I thought that if my manager saw me working long hours, looking stressed, and always typing furiously, he would think, wow, he is working so hard, we must promote him. I would say yes to every project, even if I didn't have time. I would answer emails at 10 p.m. at night. I was constantly busy.
That sounds exhausting. Did it work?
For a little while, yes, I got a reputation as a hard worker. But after a year or two, I noticed something. I was working harder than everyone else, but I wasn't getting the best opportunities. The really interesting, high-profile projects were going to other people, and some of those people left the office at 5 p.m. every day. I was confused and a little bit angry. I was going the extra mile, or so I thought, but it wasn't leading anywhere.
So what was the problem? What were they doing that you weren't?
I eventually had a very honest conversation with my mentor. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "You are the best doer on the team. If I give you a task, I know you will do it, but you are not a thinker. You are so busy doing the work that you never have time to think about why you are doing the work."
Wow, that's powerful.
It was a huge wake-up call. He explained that the people who were getting promoted weren't just completing tasks. They were thinking about the bigger picture. They were finding ways to make processes better. They were suggesting new ideas. They were building relationships with people in other departments. They were working on things that were important, not just things that were urgent. I was so busy with the urgent tasks that I never had time for the important ones.
So your extra mile was in the wrong direction.
Perfectly said. My extra mile was just doing more of the same low-level work. Their extra mile was adding strategic value.
So I changed my approach. I started to learn to say no to small, unimportant tasks. It was very hard at first, but it freed up my time and my mental energy.
What did you do with that new free time?
I used it to think. I started having lunch with people from different teams to understand what they were working on. I read industry reports. I took a step back from a process at work that was very inefficient, and I designed a new, better way to do it. I presented my idea to my manager. It took a lot of work, but it ended up saving the company thousands of dollars every year.
And I bet that got you noticed more than answering emails at 10 p.m.
Infinitely more. That one project did more for my career than 2 years of being busy. I learned that career growth isn't about the number of hours you work, it's about the value you create. It's better to work for 1 hour on a brilliant idea that helps the company than to work for 12 hours just answering emails and doing basic tasks. You have to work smart, not just hard.
That is such a valuable lesson, and it's a perfect way to tie everything together. To get the important projects, you need to communicate well with your colleagues. And to get the job in the first place, you need to show you have the potential to think strategically.
Exactly. It's all connected. So my advice to our listeners is this. Don't just focus on being busy. Schedule time in your week to think. Think about your company's goals. Think about your team's problems. How can you help solve them? How can you create real value? That is the true path to career growth. That's how you climb the ladder.
That's fantastic, inspiring advice. Let's do a final wrap-up of the entire episode. We've covered a huge amount of ground today.
We certainly have. We started with the job interview. We learned key phrases like put your best foot forward and the crucial STAR method for answering questions. The main lesson, be prepared and be honest.
Then we moved to office communication. We learned phrases for daily interaction like touch base and on the same page. And we focus on the vital skill of using softening language to make requests and disagree politely. The main lesson is be clear, but also be kind.
And we finished with career growth. We learned ambitious vocabulary like climb the corporate ladder and go the extra mile. We discussed how to talk about your accomplishments and goals in a performance review. And the main lesson from my story is to focus on creating value, not just on being busy.
It has been an incredibly practical and helpful journey. I hope our listeners feel more confident and prepared to manage their careers in English. Thank you so much, Speaker 2, for sharing all your knowledge and stories with us today.
It has been my absolute pleasure. To all our listeners, remember that language is a tool to help you achieve your goals. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep moving forward in your careers.
Thank you all for tuning in to English Forward. We'll be back next time with another topic to help you take your English to the next level. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye, everyone.